Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Am I the A-hole? Story 1. AITA for telling my sister's boyfriend nobody cares about his Tesla. 25M, blew up on my sister's 21F, boyfriend, 24M, after months of him constantly bragging about his Tesla. I met him a few months ago and it seemed like his entire personality was his Tesla. I would say stuff like I have to stop at the gas station and he would say what's that, I haven't heard about it in years, or make stupid. Story 2. AITA for blocking my door off to my room with my bed to prevent my cousins from using it as a guest room. Backstory: I, 15F, was born in Madrid, Spain to Spanish parents, but we immigrated to the US when I was 1 and we've lived here since. We do go back to visit my grandparents and whatnot, but this year, they came to us. I live in a small, 2-bedroom house with my parents. I'm an only child, so I get one room to myself and my parents get the other. This isn't enough space for my grandparents plus my uncle and his wife and kids. My grandparents booked a hotel near to our house, but my uncle is too cheap for that. He wants me to give up my room for his kids while he and his wife sleep on an inflatable bed beside them in my room. I explained that I have sleeping issues and would appreciate keeping my room. He kept insisting and annoying my parents about it till they finally caved in and told me to sleep on the couch in the living room. I didn't want to give up my room, so when nighttime came last night I rolled my bed to the door and locked it for extra security so they couldn't get in. Of course, they were upset and tried to get more to open the door and let them in, but I didn't budge. I kept my room for the entire night. Morning time, I wake up expecting a shit show. Basically, I got yelled at for having a tantrum and not making a small sacrifice. I understand what I did seems like a tantrum, but I don't feel like they are entitled to my room. I pointed out that my grandparents got a hotel and that they could have done the same. AITA. Story 3. AITA for abandoning my friends at 2 a.m. Basically I, 17F, and 2 longtime friends, also both 17F, decided to go to a music festival this year for the whole weekend because a bunch of people we loved were playing and we didn't get to go last year after our big exams. After explicitly agreeing to stick together at all times, for fear of getting separated and having to return to camp alone at night, they ran off on the second day, leaving me confused and upset. Obviously I didn't want to start a huge argument, so I calmly went back to the tent after trying to call them and waited patiently for them while on call to another friend, because I was freaking terrified as I was alone and it was late and dark. When they returned I voiced my concerns like safety in numbers, and they apologized and agreed not to do that again. Surprise surprise, they did it the next morning after the first gig. As I had other friends coming in on day passes, I called them and hung out with them for the day instead after my original friends left, but continued to call the girls throughout the day, affirming where/when we'd meet at the end of the day to walk back together. After the last headliner, which finished at like 11:30, I went to our spot and called them endlessly for like an hour and a half. No reply. I had stayed in the main arena for all that time and so was understandably upset when about 2 hours after the headliners were done I got a text saying they were back at the tent. So I ended up having to walk back alone at 1 am once again, whilst feeling pretty upset and betrayed and literally terrified as a 17-year-old girl walking back alone. I decided I was done with them and so quietly packed up my stuff and left while they slept at 2 a.m. I got back home early in the morning around 7, after having to walk to the nearest train station and wait for hours and out of the entrance, which was an hour away from our camp, and so was fast asleep for most of the next day. I woke up to hundreds of worried texts from them calling me a dick and selfish and rude and telling me that we weren't friends anymore. I honestly didn't really care as I was still pissed at the time, but after a month of having to see them at school I'm wondering if I'm the one who was truly in the wrong. So, am I the asshole for leaving my friends at a music festival in the middle of the night? Story 4. Wibta if I sent my brother's wedding video to our dad. This is a story that requires some context, most of which I'm not sure to include. My brother, to everyone's surprise, announced that he was getting married. Now, our parents are divorced and have been for several years. Both of our parents could be considered narcissistic parents, or you could just call them Asian too. I do not get along with our mom but am close with our dad, while my brother doesn't get along with our dad but is close with our mom. Our feelings about the respective parent are about the same, with the only difference being my brother was able to go no contact with our dad while I'm low contact with our mom. I've long since decided that once I get married, my incubator will not be told nor invited. This was the case for my brother with our dad. He found it through our nosy aunt. My dad has been probing me for information regarding where the wedding is, what my sister-in-law looks like, etc. But I haven't said a word because I'm afraid of what will happen. My sister-in-law just sent the wedding video. Wibda, if I sent the video to my dad to appease him temporarily, even though I know I wouldn't want anyone to send my own wedding to my mother? My brother has stated that he doesn't care what our dad knows because he's pretty sure he already knows, but I still feel worried about it. Story 5. AITA for calling my brother a perv after he made weird. Story 6. AITA for wanting to be considered over my sister's boyfriend. I currently live with my older sister in a home our grandmother rents out to us so we can help each other through our individual financial issues, because we were both kind of struggling around the same time. We've both been living there for a little over a year now. Recently, about 7 months ago, she got a boyfriend and I was incredibly happy for her. However, about 2 months into their relationship, her boyfriend was over at the house while I was at work. He and my sister started talking about his living situation, and since it would be cheaper for him to live with us, he eventually asked my sister if he could move in. Now, here's the kicker, this all happened while I was at work. I was not part of this conversation. Come about a week later, she came to my room telling me her boyfriend is about to move in. I live there too, I pay rent, and neither of them even thought to ask me about any of this. I voiced how uncomfortable it made me to have to live with a stranger to her, but she said this is what all good roommates do, that they adapt for their roommates. I countered that with saying a roommate that wants to start a life with someone else usually moves in with that person, but she got offended saying I'm asking her to move out. She was unboing and saying he makes her feel something she's never felt before, and that she wanted him to move in. So it makes me look like the asshole for being against something that makes my sister happy. I couldn't pack up and just leave at the time, and I still can't now, so I eventually bit my tongue and let her be happy. He moved in the weekend after that. A couple months pass, and now her boyfriend has a friend who made a trip from Arizona all the way down to where we live for absolutely no reason, with no plans on where to stay. He calls up my sister's boyfriend, because they were roommates before her boyfriend moved in, asking if he could crash at his place for a while before he can figure something out. I have absolutely zero idea who this person is. I'm stuck in this situation again. My sister hardly knows this person either, but she calls me about it, because she had already told her boyfriend his friend can stay. I admit I probably flew a little higher than her jump when I told her they both were getting me into this situation twice and asked her if she even really wanted me there. This upset her, and she told me so over the phone that she's offended I'd even think she'd consider a stranger over my own feelings. But she already has, and she just did it again. So I guess my question is, am I the asshole for feeling like she constantly prioritizes her boyfriend over me, and am I the asshole for thinking that I'm even entitled to be considered first sometimes? Maybe they should have their own life, but I feel like their lives shouldn't constantly have to be at my expense. Story 7. AITA for not including my best friend in my EP. Didn't plan on posting here, but quick backstory, I set up a sole prop 4 years ago, got a substantial EIDL grant during the pandemic. Helped out my struggling friend by dropping $8,000 on studio gear with the understanding he'd produce my EP. Fast forward 3 years, he moved to Florida, never set up the gear, and hasn't produced since 2018. This year, I tackled my EP solo, used Fiverr for killer tracks. Tried to reconnect with him a month ago, mentioned I incorporated his idea in one track, spent an extra $250 on it. His response? Wow, wrote me out of my own song. Shocked. AITA for not including him? Story 8. AITA for not involving my mother in my son's life as well my fertility journey. So AITA if I do not involve her in my son and future child's life if she does not change? Story 9. AITA for having a panic attack over a prank. I, 30F, received a text message over WhatsApp, messaging app from Meta, from my sister-in-law, 23, in these exact words and formatted this way, one message after the other. Hi, OP. I don't know how to tell you, or how to phrase it. But I just saw a picture of my husband's name, with another woman. She seems to have a crush on him and even tried to kiss him. He denied it, but took the picture anyway. She then sent me the picture of my husband and her dog. My husband was at his brother's house to then go to a soccer game together, just the boys as they usually do. I don't have a problem with that, never had. I trust my partner. For those who never used WhatsApp before, just like many instant messages apps, once you open it, it shows only part of the message, if you are not in the specific chat with the person. When she sent me those messages, I saw them coming up like this. Hi, OP. I don't know how to tell you. Then I saw the next one appear as, but I just saw a picture of my husband's name, with another. Then the next as she seems to have a crush on him. Then he denied it. And then photo. Needless to say, I was already having a mental breakdown. For added context, my father passed away on the first week of the month. I am still grieving him. My grandma is in hospital in critical condition and I struggle with panic attacks. I am also autistic. Once I opened the chat I understood it was a prank only after I stared at the picture for a couple of minutes, then I messaged her crying, telling her not to do this ever again. I was only able to recover from the panic attack hours later. She apologized, but later I found out by my husband that she told my brother-in-law and husband that I overreacted and I had a nonsense panic attack over nothing, that I am too fragile and she meant no harm. I can't seem to forget this and to think that maybe AITA for overreacting to a mean prank? Edit for clarity. English is my second language so I typed some stuff wrong. I apologize. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.